and welcome to another episode of All Elite Arcade. It is a Monday, the perfect time to talk about our week's worth of video games, and we have played video games as we do always. I am Evil Uno, as always, here with the Chugs. How's it going, Chugs?
Yes, it's going good, Uno. I'm excited and ready for yet again another week of us talking about the thing that we love very much, that being video games.
Oh, that's right. And I've played a fair amount, but I know you have your 5-game cycle. What have you been doing? What's the progress on those games right now?
Sure. So this week, and honestly, the next few weeks, this is the case for me and my good friend Evil Uno as well. The schedule's been a little bit wild. Lots of traveling, lots of going back and forth. So I didn't make quite as much progress in games that I would have liked to, but the progress that I did make, I was very, very happy with. Starting with first and foremost, once again, I know we always talk about the 5-game cycle, but a little bit of an update there. I continued Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin, and most importantly, I finished the first DLC, The Crown of the Sunken King, and now I'm jumping into Crown of the Old Iron King, which is the second DLC.
Okay.
But in regards to the first DLC, all I needed to do was beat this optional boss that I'd completely forgotten about. So you go into this area that is pitch black, Uno. There are poison enemies everywhere. There's these statues that like spit poison and curse at you. It's just an absolute nightmare to get through this area. So I ran for my life. I sprinted through this area to then find that infamous fog wall where I encountered the final optional boss from the Crown of the Sunken King. And this boss was tricky. This boss is very, very tricky in that it's a gank fight. So it's 3 different enemies, human enemies, who are fighting you at the exact same time.
That sounds like the worst case of Dark Souls boss for sure. multiple enemies, and they're all humans? Terrible.
All of them. Terrible. And I went through this decision in my mind where I'm like, man, now would be a perfect time to summon in an NPC summon to help me with this fight. I don't normally ever summon in human players, but I will summon in NPC players sometimes, especially if it progresses a side quest or something like that. But I decided, because I was running from all these enemies, I don't have time. I just got to go through the fog wall. And I'm so glad that I did, because Uno, I can't believe it, but I was able to beat it first try. I was running for 75% of the boss fight. I found this pattern where I would like run to try to separate them, and there was an archer. I made sure and took out the archer first. Then there was another guy with just a sword who was quick, and I was able to take him out. And the final of the 3 was someone who's dressed in Havel's armor with the giant dragon tooth, which was, he hit really hard, but he swings slow. And again, I'm so glad that I did, because there is this thing within the Dark Souls games where when you do summon in NPCs to help you, the bosses have so much more health.
Yes.
And fortunately, I'm hitting pretty hard with my curved dragon greatsword. It's a boss weapon that I got, so that was very effective. But again, with a little bit of running and a little bit of strategy, I was able to do it and then start the Crown of the Old Iron King DLC, which is my personal favorite DLC in Dark Souls 2. Incredibly challenging. Again, it's one of those areas where there are tons of enemies everywhere. You really have to take your time. A lot of really tricky areas. The one highlight for me from the Crown of the Old Iron King DLC is there's this one Red Phantom invader, and I can't recall this happening in any other Souls games, but you're fighting this guy, and when he gets down to about 50% health, the Red Phantom runs down this giant set of stairs, and I'm like, where is he going? So I'm chasing this guy, and as I go in here, the room starts to curse you, and there's all these different enemies, and there are these items that you receive at the beginning of the DLC called smelter wedges, where you find these like statues of some sort, where you have to put a smelter wedge into the statue to then destroy it. So the enemies, because the enemies around this object become more powerful, or for example, how the room cursed me. So what I did is I sacrificed myself. I ran past everybody, used a smelter wedge, was able to destroy the statue. Then I was killed pretty much immediately. But the next time I went to go fight him, the enemies that were in the room as well weren't as powered up. I was also not being cursed the entire time I was fighting the enemy. I don't know how. I'm sure it's definitely possible. I'm sure it is, but I don't know how it would be possible to beat that Red Phantom without about first using that smelter wedge and sacrificing yourself because it's super tricky. But yeah, I'm very, very excited to continue the DLC. Really, but probably my favorite boss in the entire game is in the old Iron King DLC, named the Fume Knight. So I will certainly keep everyone up to date on when I get to that boss fight. But yeah, really good progress there. Also, Uno, I continued finally after beating Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I was able to continue Ender Magnolia, the sequel to Ender Lilies, an amazing Metroidvania. And once again, I completed this whole entire area that was just huge, absolutely massive, with a tons of teleports, and you really, really had to pay attention to your map and figure out where you're going. But once again, it really is more of the same. This very much feels like a bigger and in many ways better Ender Lilies. It's massive. The boss fights are great. There's even more boss fights.
How's the music in this one?
The music is incredible.
Because that's the lasting appeal, I think, for that game is that I feel like there are games that do the type of combat that it does, but like the music is, anytime it plays, it's on a playlist and it'll play. I'm like, I cannot believe this one game had so many great songs.
It seriously does. I can't wait to download the entire soundtrack. I have the Ender Lilies soundtrack downloaded, but the Ender Magnolia soundtrack, again, when I say more of the same, I don't mean that as an insult whatsoever. I mean it as the highest compliment. So yeah, the music is incredible. Me and the Chugs Army, actually on twitch.tv/the Chugs, when I was playing Ender Magnolia, we were talking about how much we love the music and just the overall vibe of the game is just so right up my alley. And also, speaking of vibes, the vibes are very strong in Silent Hill 2 Remake, which I also continued. Actually, I was just playing that before we started filming this here today. But I am towards the tail end of the game, Uno. I feel like either next podcast or the one after that, I will be able to say that I've beaten Silent Hill 2 Remake, which would be game number 4 I've beaten this year, and also game number 67 I've beaten on stream, which would be awesome. But I'm currently at the hotel area in Silent Hill 2 Remake. And again, there are some additions they've done, whether it be with puzzles or boss fights, that I really, really enjoy and really appreciate. I got done, minor spoilers, but I got done with the Eddie boss fight today, which in my opinion was much more challenging than the original. In the original, you kind of just run around and you chase Eddie until you finally beat him. In the remake, it's like 3 phases. You go into this freezer and it's really, really hard to see. But then after the first phase, Eddie cranks up the fog so you like can't it's even harder to see right in front of you. And then the final phase is there's this meat that's hanging from hooks in the area, and the final phase is the super, super heavy fog, and the hooks are moving throughout, so you have to pay attention to so much stuff. Eddie hits really hard. When he shoots you one time, you are in complete danger. If you take any more damage, you're done. But I was able to do it and then get to the hotel. So really good progress with the 5-game cycle. Again, Silent Hill 2 Remake, Ender Magnolia, Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin, all awesome games. But I did have the chance to, and not as much as I would have liked, like I said, with my travel schedule, but I did have some time to put in some work on my personal 5-game cycle. Number one being, now that I have beaten Astrobot finally, I am jumping back into Spider-Man 2. Which when that game first came out, I played for like 3 or 4 hours of that game, and then I haven't touched it since. So I'm jumping back into it. And once again, I know this kind of goes without saying, but what a fun game. Like swinging through the entire city. The combat is super fun. I made very little progress. I think all I did was kind of swing around and collect some optional stuff, but it's got me so excited to jump back in and put some real time into that game. And then same thing with Nine Souls on my Steam Deck as well. I was able to clear out more of an area and find some optional items to get. I fought a mini boss, which was super challenging. I know I've said this before, but I'll say it again. God, the combat in Nine Souls is one of the most difficult that I've experienced when it comes to Metroidvanias, but it's awesome. God, the game just feels so good to play, and it's so fun to explore. So I'm excited to explore even more as I progress through that. And then other than that, Uno, the only thing I've really done, which this is very exciting, but of course, Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket. There is a new pack, my friend.
So
there's a new pack.
I had no clue about this. We actually went into this podcast and I did not open my app yet. Unfortunately, because I'm in a hotel, it needs to download 140 megabytes right now, and the Wi-Fi here is not fast enough to pull that off quick enough for us to do our podcast. But after this podcast, I will be opening the new packs. Do you know who the title characters on those packs are?
I believe it's, and I could be saying this wrong. Is it Arceus? Is that the correct way to pronounce?
Oh, yes.
Arceus?
Arceus? I'm not sure either. I've only seen it in writing.
Yes, I believe it's Arceus, but he is, which I recently discovered. I didn't realize this, and I could be totally wrong. If I'm making a massive bonehead play, I apologize. But I believe this Pokemon is like the god of all Pokemon. I believe.
Yeah,
like it's a very, very major, very important Pokemon.
I remember in the 150 they would claim like Zapdos and all the like the great the old birds as gods, and my understanding is that this is like the god of those gods, making it the god of all gods. All right, very excited. I will definitely gonna be opening that as soon as our podcast is done. On my side, I did want to make a quick comment because you were playing Spider-Man 2. I love those Spider-Man games. I think the traversal in that is one of the most fun things. When you're saying that all you've really done is swing around and nothing else, that's honestly all I want to do in those games. The story, the voice acting, all of that is incredible. Don't get me wrong, but the feeling of the weight of like swinging around is just incredible in those games.
It really is.
But on a Spider-Man 2 note, it is crazy. That game's been out going on 2 years now, I believe. It has so rarely been on sale because I remember I had finished Miles Morales shortly before the second game came out, and I was a little like worn out on the Spider-Man stuff because I replayed the original Spider-Man. I told myself, okay, I'll play this game once it goes down in price. And I think in the span of 2 years, it's only gone down on sale once, which I have missed it. And it's very impressive because it's still selling really well. It's on PC right now on top of being on PlayStation. Gorgeous game, and I'm really excited to eventually get my hands on Spider-Man. But it's got to go down. I made it a principle in my mind.
It's got to. And also, side note, Miles Morales, what a Spider-Man game.
Seriously.
Such a good game.
Yes. All those Spider-Man games, very, very good. Very excited for the team is also making a Wolverine game in the future, which I'm very excited for. On the subject of video games, for me, I've played less video games than I did the last few weeks. I was pretty busy, but I have genuinely made pretty good advancements on some of the games that I have played. So last week I talked about Like a Yakuza pirate, Like a Dragon pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. The title is too complicated, but self-descriptive, I will say. Last week, I played it for a good amount of time, for about 10 plus hours in a span of a few days because I made a point to wake up early and do it. I think this week I put in another 15 plus hours.
Oh, nice.
I enjoy it. I've played all these Yakuza games before, and the model is just the same model over and over, and they add on and they tack on some new stuff. And in this one, the big piece is the boat battles and then the 100 people battles where you take everyone from your ship against other people on the other ship, and it's kind of like a big Muso battle, similar to like a Dynasty Warriors. Those battles are incredible. I actually really like the ship combat. I think it's fun. It's arcadey in a sense where it doesn't feel like a simulation. It still just feels like a good time to play. And I've practically exhausted most of those fights now at this point. I've exhausted a lot of the side content. I'm only at the beginning of chapter 4, but I think I've done almost everything that's on the side piece. I have some complaints, though, about the game. Now that I've played so many of them, Yakuza's done this thing where Yakuza used to be a very, very serious tone game, and eventually what attracted people was the side content was wacky and weird. And so they started kind of leaning into the wacky and weird parts on the last few ones, on the turn-based ones. This one's extremely wacky and weird, but it feels like the main story beat is almost half-assed, which in some sense it has to be because it has to explain why he's suddenly become a pirate and stuff. But where a lot of the previous games, the core story was very strong and was keeping me on from story beat to story beat. In this one, I almost could care less about what's going on because it doesn't feel like there's weight to it. Which doesn't mean the game is bad. I just, if you were listening to this and you're trying to play one of these games for the story, especially, this one is not one of their better ones. And I don't know if it's because we're in the first week of the game coming out and it's not completely optimized, but something is really weird with this game where the saturation and like lighting levels, I've tried it through my TV. I've tried to reshape it. I've even looked online. A lot of people have these issues too. It's almost too bright and too colorful that it muddies the whole look.
Interesting.
The last two games are very pretty to look at. All the way, I'd say even Yakuza 6 onwards are gorgeous to look at. This one feels very muddied in a way where it takes a lot of like the detail out of it. And I'm not sure if that's maybe my specific console one, but a lot of people seem to have the same issues online. So I'm very, very puzzled if that'll be fixed eventually. Still a good game. I have my issues with it, but if you like a dragon, this is another one of those. It's a good time. Other stuff I put invested in this week on my twitch.tv/eviluno, I made the decision that I'm just gonna play all the Donkey Kong games, and I'm not talking just Donkey Kong Country. I put a list of every game that has Donkey Kong as a titular character that you can play, and I'll play through all of them.
Yes, dude. I love this idea.
I'm right. Start to finish. And so in one stream this week, I beat the entirety of Donkey Kong. And then this week, I will try to beat Donkey Kong 2 and 3. And then we'll move on to Konga and onwards. Donkey Kong, which I think we've talked about me wanting a new Donkey Kong game. But replaying Donkey Kong 1, I'm so much more enamored with Donkey Kong 2. Something about that game makes it my very favorite. But Donkey Kong 1, I've just replayed. And man, what an insane soundtrack that video game has. I'm kind of surprised no one's tried to replicate. Like, the sound of that game has been replicated, but the look of it on top of the sound of it, the combination feels like there's no one else that's ever done it. You'll see a ton of pixelated graphics from other styles of Super NES games, but this one never seems to have come back. It's a stunning game. It's a challenging game, too. The minecart levels are one thing, but the barrel levels and a lot of the lighting based levels are insane. It's an incredible game, and I'm very excited to explore the rest of the Donkey Kong games, especially because that recent one just came out on Switch, and so I'm building my way back to that.
Yeah, Uno, dude, I'm so glad you brought up how absolutely mesmerizing the original Donkey Kong Country was, because when you really think about what that game accomplished graphically and sound design wise with their soundtrack, it was so on another level. It was incredible. There was nothing like Donkey Kong at that time. And it's still, like you said, it still holds up today. I would love to see a modern retro-inspired version of a Donkey Kong-esque game, because it's gorgeous and it's timeless.
And I don't know what the treatment they did to their sprites is, because their sprites is almost like they took pixel art, but they blew it up in a way that like it becomes too fuzzy. And it's a style I'm sure that's been emulated once or twice since, but is not a prominent style nowadays. I would love to see how we have a PS1 resurgence of graphics for horror games nowadays. I would love to see a platformer kind of try to emulate its visual style, because Donkey Kong is, to me, one of the best games of all time. And every time I replay it, I'm always surprised. Like, if this game came out today on an independent level, people would be talking about how incredible this is. And it just baffles me that we're still not doing more of them. But very excited to do more Donkey Kong, so be on the lookout for that. And then the last two things I did, the new Fortnite season came out. I didn't get a ton of time into it. This one is very heist-based, which is fun. It's going back to something that happened like 2-3 seasons ago, which I like, but it doesn't feel. This one doesn't have a hook like the other two seasons have. It's not a car base. It's not the ninja masks and stuff. So I'm trying to kind of figure out what my major opinion of this is. But as this season will continue, we will keep talking about it. At this moment, I like it. The challenge of it is pretty good. I like the new weaponry. And I'm very excited. If you haven't seen this stuff, they did a ton of marketing for this Fortnite game based on their new character called Big Dill, who's a giant rapping pickle. And they made him have like a real life feud through social networks against T-Pain. And they're making like collaborative music videos and stuff. Fortnite's one of the weirdest properties in the world because we talked about this a few episodes ago. They can just have a concert at Times Square randomly and no one bats an eye, much like they can just decide a character they're just introducing in a week's time that has no one knows about big deal to just start throwing marketing money at it and hiring other people to do brand deals with it. It's very odd. And it can only be done with Fortnite. It's such a fascinating video game in the grand scheme of things.
It really is such a juggernaut. It really, really is.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, still making a buttload of money. I'll be talking more about that Fortnite for sure. And then the last game I want to talk about, and this one I want to talk a good bit about, is called Star of Providence. Star of Providence is a pixel-based over the like top-down shooter where you see it from above. Where you're a little spaceship and it's like a 360 shots, bullet hell dodging at the same time. But the way it's structured is it's structured like a roguelike Metroidvania. So think about Binding of Isaac. Every time you would die, you restart the game, you've unlocked some pieces, and then you would go down each floors. And within each floors, the assortment of rooms will change based on, roguelike nature. So it'll always be random and so on. This is a little backstory about the game. It just came out on Switch. It just came out with a update on PC. It was actually a game called Monolith in 2017 that in the last couple of years, Big Mode, which is the publishing house from YouTuber Video Game Donkey, he published his first big published game was Animal Well, which made a ton of noise, and he mostly champions indies. He, I guess, either approached or was approached by the development team of Monolith and decided to invest money in republishing it on a physical release for Switch and a new update. So there's a ton of new content in it. It's pretty fleshed out. I played the game 4 runs initially, beat the game, and I thought I was done. And then I realized when I was finished that it started unlocking things in my hub, and I thought my hub was very simplistic. But then within my hubs, there were, challenge runs and statistics of every monster I encountered. And then I started realizing the scope of the game. Within my 4 runs, I had maybe only touched like 10% of what I was going to find. And you're not going to find it's not going to be in a chunk of 10% because it's a roguelike. You're just going to slowly unravel all of the content. It's been very good. It's been very challenging. It's something I've been playing on my laptop constantly. And because I've been traveling this week and I will be traveling, I will probably be talking about it next week. But right now, this is one of my favorite games of this year. It's between this
nice.
and the Ruchis are Dead as my favorite game that I've played as of yet. It's well worth your time if you're into these top-down shooters, because they don't do a lot of these games. This one's a very fleshed out one with a lot of variety to it because there's a variety of guns, there's a variety of upgrades that you can get, and then because every run changes, you never feel like it's overstaying its welcome. It changes it enough that the challenge is always different. So it's well worth your time. Star of Providence on PC and Steam if you are ever so interested. But that's it. You know what? I thought I played nothing, but now I realize both of us played a lot of video games.
we did. We were both a little worried. We were like, oh man, we didn't get to game as much as we would have liked to. I think we made some pretty good progress.
Oh yeah,
we made some pretty good progress.
Oh,
this
we
week.
definitely did. And you finished a game. I finished a game. Our tally is both at 4 right now. We shall see where we are.
Oh no. So I'm still at 3. I'm still I think I'm very close to 4.
Okay, that's right.
Very soon I'll finish Silent Hill 2 remake, or very soon. That's the one that I'm close to finishing. So far you've got me beat, Uno, but I'm almost there.
I am playing with cheat codes though. Donkey Kong took 2.5 hours to beat, so it wasn't
beautiful.
But I'm gonna play those old Donkey Kong games. Twitch.tv/EvilUno, and then the Chugs is also on Twitch. Make sure you check out his 5-game cycle. That's it for the games we're playing this week, but that's not all. We do have news of the week, and it happens right after this. Welcome back. It is time for your news of the week. And before we do that, do you want to be an AW insider? Well, get early access to ticket pre-sales special merchandise offers, and more straight to your inbox. Sign up today at awtix.com. It's I wouldn't say there was no news this week, but it was a very light week for video game news, which is not a bad thing. We've seen so many weeks with a ton of people getting fired and studios being shut down. We definitely do not want to talk more about that stuff. That sucks for sure. Oh, actually, I think there were more of those, which every week, unfortunately, there are more and more of those. Unfortunately, it's a thing that's going to happen, but I'm hoping we slow down on that. But yes, please go ahead.
I was just going to say, when is there going to be a week where we don't have that bad news?
Yeah, I would love.
I'm with you.
I would love a week where we talk nothing but positive things. But but thankfully, I didn't note down the cancellations for this week and such. We have some new stuff and some interesting and exciting things, including Pokémon Presents. That's right. Nintendo came out and talked about all kinds of their upcoming Pokemon projects, including the trading card games. We talked about it earlier. They released or unveiled the new pack that was released today to the whole world. This happened just this week. But the big stuff was Pokemon Legends ZA, which is they showed an extended look to their next big game. I believe this is a DLC to one of their games, right? Or is this a brand new game?
I believe this is a brand new game, and it's in the world of the Generation 6 Pokemon.
Okay.
I know there was Pokemon Legends Arceus, but I believe Pokemon Legends ZA is its own standalone game.
Okay. And from my understanding, it's like Arceus, where it is that open world RPG style.
Yes. And Uno, just very quickly, based on the trailer from what I've seen, which again, this past it was Thursday was Pokemon Day, where they decided to showcase a bunch of new stuff with Pokemon. And obviously the big main event, we'll talk a lot more about the other stuff, but the big main event being the new trailer for Pokemon Legends ZA. Let me tell you, it looks really, really cool. And one of the things that got me so excited, in addition to, like you said, seems like it's going to be open world, seems like it's going to be very similar play style wise as Pokemon Legends Arceus, but so is the combat. Like, I didn't expect it. Like, from what the trailer I saw, it looked like you could get your Pokemon to attack a Pokemon out in the wild, and then you could just throw a Pokeball and capture the Pokemon, very similar to Pokemon Legends Arceus. But also, the battle system seemed so interesting because it was like the trainer was there with their Pokemon, and then you're there with your Pokemon. And oftentimes, as a battle was happening, you were dodging to avoid the attacks, and your Pokemon would almost follow you to dodge. So I don't know if this will be like a live action, like you can avoid Pokemon attacks by moving out of the way, but it seemed really interesting and really exciting and active as far as the battles go.
Well, that's cool because they've definitely done that type of RPG in other games now. Yakuza has a movement-based thing. Even going back as like a Earthbound RPG, they had timing-based stuff that would either double your damage or reduce the damage that you would take from stuff. So it would be cool to implement that on a different level in a 3D world, in a 3D space for Pokemon for sure. So this trailer, on top of showing that, it showed a ton of gameplay from my understanding. And the big news from it is that it is releasing late 2025. No actual date, if I remember correctly, was disclosed. But it is, if it comes out this year and GTA comes out this year, we're in for a big head-to-head between two juggernauts of video games for sure.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, just another massive game releasing in 2025. It's just 2025 is shaping up to be an all-timer. That's for sure.
And then on a new Pokemon game was announced. This one is developed for the Switch family of systems, aka probably Switch and Switch 2, plus iOS and Android, called Pokemon Champions. And this one is less about capturing Pokemon and way more about just the form of battles between Pokemon. So strictly focused on the actual trading attacks, defending, and so on and so forth. It's going to connect to Pokemon Home, and it could use your caught Pokemon from Pokemon Go, Scarlet, and Violet, which is a fascinating thing to try and implement for sure.
Yes, this is so exciting, especially when they showed that you can use your Pokemon from Pokemon Go or from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and then transfer those Pokemon into this game, which is exciting. It looks very like Pokemon Stadium in the sense of the battles go, but the fact that you can play it on so many different platforms and have all these awesome battles, and like you had said, transfer these Pokemon that you've captured out in the wild in other games is just so unbelievably cool to me. Yeah, very, very excited for this. This looks awesome.
They also gave little updates on some of their mobile games that they've already released. They're releasing new content for Pokemon Unite, as well as Pokemon Sleep. None of those, unfortunately, I've played, so I have no information on the value of this new stuff. But that was part of the things they said. And then on top of that, they also showed off Pokemon Concierge, which is I don't know how you say that in English. It's a French word. But
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, good. They have a new Pokemon series coming out on Netflix in September, or rather, this is like season 2, I think, of this thing, and it's like a felt-based Pokemon show that's stop motion. It looks really cool.
Looks gorgeous.
Pokemon's never gonna end. I feel like it's the easiest property to continue forward. But I'm glad that they have a multifaceted approach to it. They're really hitting on all markets, be it console games, mobile games, handhelds, and on top of that, they're in the movies and the TV shows. Pokemon Nintendo is doing well.
Yes. Like we had talked about earlier with Fortnite being a juggernaut, but Pokemon is the ultimate juggernaut. It's going to be around forever and ever, and I love it. I love all the new games, all the new updates, the TV shows, the movies. I can never get enough. I can never get enough of Pokemon. So yeah, this is really exciting.
Yeah, I can't honestly imagine it not being around in another 20 years, because I feel like our generation fed into this generation's going to feed into the next 20 years. I just don't see it ever stopping. And you know what? Kudos to them. Nintendo knows when they have something. They strike while it's hot.
Oh yeah.
Some bad news. Fable, which was supposed to come out this year on the Xbox, well, Microsoft has revealed that the video game will now be delayed to 2026. No actual information on when in 2026 that will be. But while also announcing that, they have disclosed some new pre-alpha gameplay. We watched it a little bit. It's about 50 seconds of alpha gameplay itself, and then there's about 2 minutes of like cinematics, and gameplay should be my focus here, but I just want to say this real quick. This thing is stunning. I don't know anything about the value of minute to minute gameplay, but man, the face rendering, the shadows, the lighting is incredible.
Yeah, seriously. So again, like Uno had just mentioned, me and you watched this right before we actually went live today, because we're like, oh, we got to see this pre-alpha gameplay Fable trailer. I know there's a lot of really gorgeous video games out there. We're seeing that more and more. It's amazing what video games have done graphically, but this seriously like took my breath away. It looks absolutely incredible. The monsters look amazing. The environments look amazing. Like you said, the faces in the gameplay looked amazing. This looks like, if this looks close to this for the actual final game, this has got to be one of the prettiest games I've ever seen. Seriously.
Oh, yeah.
It's beautiful.
And it makes a ton of sense when you look into the pedigree of this video game, because it's made in the Forza Horizons engine, which is a stunning game, but it's a stunning game for cars. So it's I don't know how many games were actually built in this engine. I'd be very curious to find out. But it's the people that also worked on Forza that are making this game on top of that. So it's people that are at least genuinely have a experience in this engine. Because typically when these engines get thrown around, there's a learning curve before you get into this. This is people that actually know how to use it to its weight. So I'm very excited to see more of it. It sucks that we're gonna have to wait a little longer, but it's not like we're not getting a ton of new games this year. It doesn't hurt me if the game is going to be better for it. I don't mind it. We're waiting another month.
And I agree. And I know that Craig Duncan, the head of Xbox Game Studios, was quoted as saying that the game is definitely worth the wait. And let me tell you, after watching that pre-alpha trailer, I'm going to agree with him. I think it's absolutely going to be worth the wait.
Yeah, it looks stunning. If the Xbox has had very big visual juggernauts. I'm forgetting the audio based game. Where
Hellblade 2?
Hellblade 2 is maybe one of the most beautiful looking games on any console right now.
Yes.
But this might top it. Artistically, it might not be the most beautiful compared to other things, but as far as like character renders, this is stunning. I really, you should go out of your way and go check this out. It's very, very nice.
Definitely. Yeah, please go watch this. It's
please
worth it.
do. It's on the YouTubes. Go check it out. Pre-alpha footage, Fables. Some quick little stuff. We've got new games coming up, including there's a new Terminator 2D arcade side-scroller game called Terminator 2D No Fate. It is based on Terminator 2, aka the best of the Terminators.
Oh yeah,
you got to watch this. This looks pretty cool. I got to watch some of the trailer earlier. It seems like we're heading more and more into brands having their video games, but for once those games not sucking. So I'm very excited to see more of it.
Yeah, this looks really, really good. Again, I'm imagining being a kid and watching Terminator 2 for the first time. And if this game existed, it would have been like one of my all-time favorites. This clearly is incredibly inspired by the Terminator 2 movie. It almost seems like in this game, you're going to be going through actually the entire movie, which is awesome. I love the 2D art style. I loved that it looks like there's going to be a bunch of different situations you're in. There's some run and gun situations. It looks like there's even a place potentially where you're either running away or hiding from something or one of the Terminators. But yeah, again, this trailer was awesome and got me incredibly hyped. To have a good 2D Terminator game sounds incredible, and the fact that it's based on Terminator 2, I mean, let's go. It looks awesome.
And you can play it this will be on everything: PS5, PS4, Switch, Xbox, and PC. No mention of Switch 2, but from our understanding, Switch 2 will be backwards compatible, and so that should cover that as well. A announcement was made, but no release date was made, but my understanding is it will come out this year. Another new game, this one's from the PUBG creator, PUBG being one before Fortnite, the biggest like battle royale. It is still going strong.
Oh yeah.
If it wasn't for Fortnite, it probably would be the biggest battle royale of all time.
Definitely.
But this was made by a single creator, and that single creator has gone on and made a hard as nails survival game that will be launching in early access this summer for only $20. It's called Prologue Go Way Back, and the thing that it's going to be a massive open world where you use a physical map and a compass to walk around. It's just being thrown in the wilderness. They didn't show any. There doesn't seem to be horror elements. There doesn't seem to be anything but weather, darkness, animals, hunger, exhaustion, the cores of a survival game. And so he's gone out and talked about how ambitious the tech behind it is, saying that it can make up to 4.2 billion different world seeds, which
wild
is something that seemed like science fiction. But now that we've had No Man's Sky, and I think some people are probably starting to understand how to use the algorithms to do that stuff, it's baffling to think that a single individual now, and he probably has a team, but it might not be a very big one. The fact that we're now seeing more of these type of games is very, very interesting. I think this is fascinating, especially for someone who made so much money on a battle royale and probably could just walk away for life. To make a completely different game, and one that actually has a lot of competition, is kind of an interesting choice. But I will say straight up, I don't think this will be for me. I'm not a big survival game guy.
Yeah, I have very, very little experience with the survival game genre. I know it's massive, but from the trailer that I saw, it does certainly look really, really interesting. Specifically, the weather condition seems awesome. I believe this is a first-person style as well, which is really cool, and that fits perfectly with the survival game genre. But yes, same here, Uno. I have very little experience with it. Hey, maybe this will be one that we jump into. Maybe we're going to become big survival game guys.
It could be. I mean, I never thought I was going to be a battle royale guy, and now here I am. So,
and now look at you.
Maybe I just need to fight the right one. No Man's Sky I enjoyed.
Yes.
But I enjoyed every part except for the actual finding resources so I could stay alive stuff. I'm not Something about that
Right.
irks me, but if you are into that, this one looks like a very stunning looking one with a ton of different weather patterns, rain, snowstorms, high winds, all kinds of cool stuff. The trailer is out there right now. That's it, though, for the news of this week. It was a fairly short one, but the less bad news, the better. I'm not complaining. But our podcast isn't done. In fact, our most important part of the podcast, your questions, the community mailbag, will be happening right after this. Welcome back. It is time. It is time for our favorite segment of the show, brought to you by our sponsors and our good friends at Upper Deck. Collect your favorite wrestlers in 2024's Upper Deck AEW and start your trading card collection today. Unwrap autographs, memorabilia, and premium tech inserts. What do we have today, Chugs?
We got a fresh new Allure pack, and we're starting off strong. No pun intended.
Roderick
There we
Strong.
go.
There it is.
There we go.
Willow Nightingale.
Nice.
Oh, that's a different sheen than the ones we've seen before. Darby Allin.
Yeah, really cool.
Chris Jericho doing his trademark knife edge chop. We've got the House of Black.
There we go. And
that is Darius Martin. Harley Cameron. I believe this is her first card. Good for her.
oh, very cool.
Hangman
Adam Page.
There you
Hey,
go.
very good deck.
Great deck of cards. We're big fans of these Allure packs. They look stunning. They're very. I said this last week. I'm gonna say it again. But I used to get so excited when I would get one colorful card, be it in any pack, be it a Pokemon pack, be it a sports pack, be it a wrestling card pack. When I would get one shiny one, I'd be like, I did it. I freaking got something cool.
Right.
Well, these packs are all like that. Every single card is incredible to look at. Do get your AEW Allure pack and former AEW 2024 Upper Deck packs, all available at upperdeck.com. Visit upperdeck.com to learn more. We've got 3 questions today. If you want your questions answered, go to tbs.com/arcade mailbag and send your questions to myself and the Chugs. It all starts with our good friend Josh.
Yes, Josh, thank you so much for the question. Appreciate it. Josh says, yo, guys, thanks for the pod every week. Thanks for listening. I look forward to Mondays. My question is, do you think Nintendo should make another Smash Bros. Without Sakurai? The one time they tried it was disastrous, and they rehired him to fix everything. With the Switch 2 on the horizon, I'm fearing Nintendo might make a really bad addition to the series. Josh, thank you very much for the question. Truth be told, I did not know that backstory.
Neither did I.
They had what, Uno?
Neither did I. I had no clue that Sakurai was not involved in one of them in the previously.
Yes, I did not either. So I will say this. I mean, I do certainly feel like specifically with Smash Bros. Ultimate, I mean, that to me maybe is my personal favorite Smash Brothers ever. I know that's controversial. A lot of people like Melee as their favorite, but I really, really love Smash Ultimate for sure. So I honestly feel like Nintendo should just do more of the same as far as doing what they're doing, considering how successful Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was. Hopefully we get the same or an incredibly similar team working on the next Smash Bros. For the Switch 2, because we're going to get a Switch 2 Smash Brothers at some point. So I feel like Nintendo knows how important this is with this Switch 2, with following up on games like Mario Kart and games like Super Smash Brothers. And I think they will have a very good team to put together these sequels to these games. So I have very good faith that the next Smash Brothers on the Switch 2 will be a home run.
So this is very similar to our conversation we had with Mario Kart last week, where what would we do for the next Mario Kart? And it's kind of hard for me to predict what you need to do for our next Smash Brothers, because you could revamp the whole engine, but then you are saying goodbye to all 100 characters that are already coded and animated in this engine. Whereas if they just do an HD version of it, which is impossible, they can't, but if they just took it and made it a Switch 2 version and just added a roster of 15 more guys or 20 more guys, I think that's plenty. And that would more arenas, maybe a mode that's exclusive to the Switch 2 release. I could see that happening. It would seem silly, I think, for them to start from scratch in a new engine again when you have it's called Ultimate for a reason. It is it will never be a bigger roster of Smash Brothers, I think, if they make a new engine. So I'd be very curious to see what the future is like. I just don't think they're going to do it without Sakurai. I think if they did use him before, they're going to do all hands on deck on Switch 2. I cannot foresee them, especially he's in his later years. He's in the late 50s. I would presume they want to use every little bit of his time allocated to things he is big at, including Smash Brothers. So good question, Josh. I don't even know what they could possibly do that's going to make it different, but I'm almost guaranteed we're still going to see some form of Smash Brothers on Switch 2.
I agree. But Josh, great question. Thank you very much for the question. Appreciate it.
Next question is for Mike. Mike says, "Hey, Chugs and Uno, what do you think is the right amount of time between a game announcement and its launch? I think 6 months is enough time to slowly build hype until launch, but I find anything longer makes me less and less interested about a title. I think established IPs can get away with longer, but new IPs benefit from a shorter time frame. Thanks, guys." That's a great question, actually. I think it's multi-layered. In my opinion, it varies based on titles, but I think like six months as an average is a pretty good ballpark, I would say, across the board.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And Uno, you're right. This was such a good question. Because I agree with you, Uno, in that it kind of varies depending on the title. Like, don't get me wrong. I know me and you and a lot of people, I love a great shadow drop every now and then when it's like, hey, here's your trailer. And also the game's out now. That's amazing. But yeah, I feel like 6 months to a year is okay. But like Mike had mentioned, unless it's a really established IP or franchise or what have you. Because, for example, if I got a new trailer for part 3 of the FF7 remake project and they said it was coming out in 2027, which is years from now, I'd be so hyped and so glad they showed the trailer.
Yes.
And I'm not going to lose any hyper excitement for it. But generally speaking, when it comes to newer IPs, I think that 6 months to I'm even okay with a full year. Because my backlog is so big and there's so many games that I'm going through as well. But anytime you get more than a year, unless it's a super established IP, that's when it can get a little bit tricky.
Yeah, I think the same way. 6 months is a good ballpark. And then your GTAs, your Last of Us, all of Metroid Prime. Although Metroid Prime now we've been waiting a very long time still.
Yeah.
You could drop a year or two in advance a logo or at least just the notice of it happening, and I think that's plenty. I just feel like a lot of like non-established IPs have no benefit to be out more than a year because then you're leading on this expectation. Whatever hype you get for that game, it is hard to keep it for a full calendar year. And then for smaller titles, a lot of indie games, I'm completely cool with like an under 3 month. Like, if within 3 months you tell me, like, this game is coming out, it's innovative, it's cool, I'm cool with that. Because I don't know how much more you can advertise for a full year's worth. But I think 6 months is a good ballpark for almost everything.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Thank you, Mike, for that question. Great question.
Yes, really good question. And last but not least, Matt has sent in a question. Matt, thank you very much. Matt says, "Hey, Chugs and Uno, love the podcast, love the continuous positivity." Well, thank you. I'm a big trophy hunter. Recently got my 176th platinum on Sekiro, completing the FromSoft set.
That's two pieces of information that are insane. One, you platinum
You
Sekiro,
legend.
and that's 176 platinums. That's insane.
Yeah, seriously. GG's, Matt. I remember you saying that you didn't have a single platinum or Xbox equivalent. I do have a couple 100% completions for Xbox. So my question is this. If trophies could be added to any game from any era/console of the past, which game would be an instant, I have to platinum this game for you personally? Matt, this question rules.
Yes.
Also, seriously, congrats on 176 platinums. That is absolutely incredible. I still have not gotten a platinum trophy yet, but I have got a couple of 100% completions on Xbox with some Telltale games, and also recently, within the past few years, Halo 5, a very important game to me. But I got to start getting my platinum hunting going and 100% achievements across all platforms with Steam and Xbox and PlayStation. But again, such such a great question in regards to what would I go back and platinum right away. I mean, there's a couple that I think of like immediately. One of those being, I just brought it up, but the original Final Fantasy VII would be a game I would love to go back and platinum. I think in some kind of ways, a few years ago on my PS Vita, I did 100% complete the game. Like I got every single item, every summon, maxed out everything. Like I was so into going through Final Fantasy VII from top to bottom. Where if there was a platinum trophy for that, I'm sure I would have gotten it. But the original Resident Evil 2 is another really big one. I would want to go back in platinum, and then to go back even further, Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo is one of my favorite games of all time. I play that at least once every single year. I just love that game. It's like a comfort game for me. So that would be another one I would love to go back. It'd be so cool, Matt, if they just went back and said, all right, we're just going to add platinum trophies or 100% completion trophies for every game from every era. That'd be so cool. But yeah, Matt, really good question. Uno, what about you?
The way you just presented it, if Nintendo did that with their back catalog that they have in their stuff, if any of those games had trophies, it would genuinely push me to go back and play them, because I was thinking about it, and every single one of my suggestions is like, yeah, I'd go back and play Super Mario World. I'd play Super Mario 64. I'd play Banjo-Kazooie. I would play I play all the Donkey Kongs. Now that I've played the first Donkey Kong and having that percentage, here's the thing: you have percentages in some of this game, but I beat that game and I had 66%, and I was like, oh man, should I go back and complete everything? Should I get all the Kong coins? Should I get the secret stuff? Because you can get all the way to 101 in there. All to say, if Nintendo implemented that, or any of them implemented that on their back catalog, on the very old stuff, I genuinely think it would force me to play a lot of games that I think about but never have like an urge to, because there are games I like a lot, but am I gonna throw 17 hours into them again? Nah, I don't think I will. But if you told me there's a platinum involved and some form of way for me to be like, hey guys, look at this, you see this trophy,
right?
This looks incredible. Yeah, I think I would go back and do those. That is, and honestly, if Nintendo, I don't think you're listening to this, but anyone out there that wants to implement that on their old catalog, PS1, PS2, Xbox original, man, I would F with that for sure.
Dude, I bet, I'm not kidding, based off what you're saying, I bet there would be an increase in people going back and playing these games just to get the platinum trophies. Yeah,
I'd go to the NES library and try to get a platinum on a hard NES game. That would become a thing people try to do, you know? So that's sure. It wasn't meant as a suggestion, but Matt, that's a great idea. And I hope it's implemented in there. And I hope you tell us as well in the comments down below what old games you would want to platinum if they had the trophies. Go to youtube.com/awgames. Go into our comments section. The video drops every Monday, as does our podcast everywhere. If you want your questions answers, tbs.com/arcade mailbag. We love this segment. We love answering your questions. Thank you so much, everyone that sends their question every week. We are very fortunate for your listen and also for your support. Chugs, what we doing on Twitch this week? We doing more 5 games?
We're doing more 5-game cycle, Uno. Once again, twitch.tv/thechugs. It's a pretty busy week coming up, but I'm still planning on streaming at least 3 or 4 times this week. But once again, going to play some more Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, going to play some more Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, maybe even some more Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin. Again, continuing Ender Magnolia. I'm so close to finishing Silent Hill 2 Remake. It's going to be a great week of streams. Once again, please feel free to come and hang out. twitch.tv/thechugs.
And I will also be on Twitch. You can find me at twitch.tv/eviluno. I announced it earlier today, and I announced it on my last stream. But I am doing nothing but Donkey Kong on Twitch. Twitch.tv/eviluno. I beat Donkey Kong Country. I will do DK2, then DKC3, and then I'll do the bongo games, the bongo platformer. I'll play Diddy Kong Racing. I'll play Diddy Kong 6 or Donkey Kong 64. I'm doing it all, baby. Go to twitch.tv/eviluno. This might take most of my year.
and well worth it. Worth it.
It will be it's a venture that will make me happy for sure. Do make sure you hit that follow button and make sure you listen to our next episode every single Monday, wherever the podcast is available. We thank you for your listen. We thank you for your support, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.